and let students in. So all right, so let me go back here. So thank you for joining. Just have a few housekeeping announcements. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your question to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of the many different sessions happening. So please be sure to check out the full schedule at WVACRAO.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be available within a week at that same website, which again is WVACRAO.org. Now I'd like to turn it over to our presenters.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our panel session today. If you already registered, you know what we're talking about. It's going to be about navigating the college search as a first-generation student. We have multiple great presenters from several institutions: Sarah Rollins from Glenville, myself from Shepherd University, Chris Thompson from Virginia Tech, Kristen Ring from West Virginia Wesleyan, and Danielle from West Virginia University. And I will go ahead and turn things over to Danielle. Oh yes, and main topics we're covering today, we're going to talk about the vocabulary, some of the lingo you'll hear in your college search. We just want to provide some clarification on that. Things like the registrar's office, transferring college credits if you're coming in with college credits already. We'll be talking about the FAFSA and other financial aid information, TRIO programs, and other support systems and resources on campus. And now I will go ahead and turn things over to Danielle.
Hi, everyone. So as Lacey said, my name is Danielle Linsenbigler, and I work in the admissions office at the Morgantown campus of West Virginia University. And one of the first things that we want to do for you all is just kind of help you learn some of the terms that you might hear as you are moving through the process, because it can be a little confusing sometimes if you are not familiar with those. So some general terms that you may hear just as you're starting the college search or maybe starting the application process. So the different types of degrees that you can earn. Out of high school, you typically can earn one of two degrees. You can earn an associate's degree, which is typically a 2-year program. And with that associate's degree, you can either go on to go to school for another 2 years to earn your bachelor's degree, or you can go directly into the workforce. It is not required to earn a bachelor's degree after an associate's degree, nor is it required to earn your associate's degree before you go on and earn your bachelor's degree. So as I mentioned, the bachelor's degree is typically a 4-year program. Once you've completed that, you can usually go out into the workforce, or you could go on to graduate school and earn your master's or your doctoral degree. Out of high school, you are considered a first-time freshman. So if you have not attended college full-time or even part-time after graduating high school, you are a first-time freshman. So if you took dual enrollment courses, while college and high school courses, that doesn't count. You're still considered a first-time freshman. An undergraduate student is any student who is working towards either their associate's or their bachelor's degree. So if you're working on either two of those programs, you are considered an undergraduate student. You're a graduate student if you work on your master's or your doctoral program. And you may hear questions about, what academic school or college are you interested in? So most universities will break their majors down into different schools and colleges based on fields of study. So for example, you can be admitted to the College of Creative Arts at West Virginia University. That doesn't mean that you're not admitted to WVU. That is just part of your admission. You kind of have that home within the university. So as you are filling out the application, a couple terms to know. An application fee is required by some schools in order to apply. So just to submit the application, there can be a fee. However, colleges and universities don't want that fee to be a barrier in any way for students to apply. So many will offer fee waiver options to students who participate in certain government programs, if you were eligible for an SAT or ACT testing waiver. So if the school you're applying to requires an application fee and that is at all hard for you to come up with, or you just want to know your options, you can contact someone at the school to see if they offer a fee waiver. If you have the option to apply early decision, that means that you are essentially guaranteeing that if you would get admitted to that school, that is where you will attend, as long as you receive a financial aid package that is considered adequate by you and your family. If you apply early decision and you're admitted, you must rescind all other applications to other universities and attend that institution, again, if they present a financial aid package that is adequate. Now, rolling admission, you still find out early, but you're under no binding contract to attend. So as applications come in, the schools will review them and send out a decision. So the earlier you apply, the earlier you will have a decision back. And the academic deposit is oftentimes required at colleges and universities to indicate that you plan to enroll. So once you know that you want to enroll, you'll pay the academic deposit that holds your spot in the incoming class. Most schools that require an academic deposit will also make them fully refundable up until a certain date, usually May 1st, but that can vary by school. And you're going to meet a lot of people along the way of your college search. Probably one of the most important people that you'll meet is either called an admissions counselor, or in my case, a regional recruiter. So these are people who are assigned to help you throughout the college process. Most universities will break their territories down geographically, so you can find what regional recruiter is assigned to your county, region, or high school. I can't stress enough that myself and other admissions counselors from any other school that you might be considering are here to help with any questions that you have. We really do want to make sure that the process goes as smoothly as possible for you. So take advantage of us, reach out anytime you need help. We do vary and are different from your academic advisor. This is someone at the university that is at your particular program or school or college that I mentioned earlier that you are going to meet with typically once a semester before scheduling your classes. They will work with you to make sure that you are on track to graduate, have the courses that you want, and you can talk about long-term plans with them. A dean or department head is someone who oversees an academic school or college. So the example I provided earlier with the College of Creative Arts, there is a dean at that College of Creative Arts that makes sure the professors are, doing research, making sure that they're accessible to students, really responsible for the academic success of that school or college. So if at any point during your college search you have the opportunity to meet with a dean or an academic head, definitely take advantage of that. They are a great resource for you when you eventually enroll at that school. And then another person that you'll meet if you should enroll is called your resident assistant. That person is a student at the university that lives on your floor in the residence hall, and they are there to offer programming, resources, support for you as you adjust to college life. So those are some of the people that you will meet along the way. So if you have any questions about resources that are offered at West Virginia University for first-generation students, please don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is there. And if I could offer you one tip, it's that don't think you have to know all the answers. This can be a very confusing process, especially if you are the first one in your family to go through it. So reach out, ask questions, and we are here to help along the way.
Hi everybody, I'm Sarah from Glenville State College, and I'm going to be talking to you about the Registrar's Office. So when you hear the term Registrar's Office, you can just know that when you're looking at the Registrar's Office, they're the ones who give you your official college transcripts. They deal with all things enrollment, and they house your academic records. So once you're in school, if you need to drop a class or add a class, the Registrar's Office is a good first place to go. And when you're doing the enrollment process to get into college, you're going to probably have an admissions advisor reach out to you and ask you if you've taken dual enrollment courses. And if you have, we will need the official final transcripts from that college. So like at the high school I went to, we had college English through the local community college, and I had to get my transcript from that college and send it to the college I was going to because it had my English class on there. And so a problem we often run into when trying to get transcripts from students is they want to get the transcript and bring it to us, but rather you would need to go through the registrar's office and ask them to send your official transcript to the college you plan to go to. And for it to be a final transcript, you can't have any classes pending, so it needs to have your final grades on there, and that's how we know it's final. Since you guys are all first generation students, I wanted to let you know about a great opportunity we have here at Glenville State College called the Hidden Promise program. And it's a scholarship and mentor program designed for first generation students. And we can get you into the program as early as 10th grade, and you'll have support through high school from 10th grade all the way up until your college choice. And as a Hidden Promise Scholar, you have exclusive entry to all of our sporting events and our fine arts events and library resources online. And then once you get to your college choice, if you do decide to come to Glenville as a Hidden Promise Scholar, you'll receive a $1,000 scholarship toward your tuition every year. And it continues to be a peer mentoring program, so that you can always have someone to turn to and not feel like you don't have anyone to talk to in the college process, because if you've never done it before, then it can be overwhelming, but your peers are there to help you out. So here's my contact information. That phone number does do call and text, so if you prefer texting, I'll be happy to text with you if you have any questions. And tips from me, my number one tip someone told me when I started, and it really is true: show up to class. It's such a big part of just getting through it, is showing up, sticking to your routine, and being there to retain the information. But the way a lot of learning is happening right now is online. So if you're thinking, what if I have online classes that don't meet? A good way to stick to your schedule is to make a schedule. Decide, when I have this online class, I'm going to do my work between 8 and 9 every morning, and I know I'm going to do it and stick to it. That way you don't get behind and you can keep up with your work. So if you have any questions, just let us know and we'll take it to the next presenter.
Thanks, Sarah. I want to go ahead and take a second to remind you guys to send your questions to the Q&A. We've already covered a lot of topics, and especially as I get into the FAFSA and financial aid, things can get sticky. There's a lot of information and a lot of details. So if you guys need any clarification, definitely send questions to that Q&A. So I'll be talking about the FAFSA and financial aid a little bit today, some of the basics of what you'll need to know, what to expect, what it is, how to get it done, all that good stuff. So what is the FAFSA? If you guys haven't heard it yet already, be ready to hear it for the next 4 years of your life. It is the free application for federal student aid. So what does it do? So it's an online application that you fill out. As the name implies, it is federally associated, and it determines your eligibility for federal financial assistance like grants and loans. And I'll talk a little bit about those grants and loans in just a minute. But as far as actually getting it done, it is going to require some tax information either from your parents or legal guardian. If you filed your taxes independently and you're actually legally emancipated, you can use your own tax return information to fill it out. And this is already open. So for the fall 2021 school year, you can go ahead and get your FAFSA done. I like to recommend that you get it done as soon as possible to make sure you're not missing out on any opportunities for scholarships. So I know for Shepherd, we have a March 1st deadline, but some of the other schools want you to have it in as soon as January 1st. So usually the sooner the better, because you can always go back in and make edits later on. So just make sure that you guys are paying attention to those priority deadlines and details for the schools that you're interested in applying to. And then let's get into the breakdown of what the FAFSA can actually offer you. So let's talk about grants. Grants are financial aid that is awarded to you that does not have to be repaid. So for the FAFSA specifically, the eligibility is based on financial need. Some of the grant names that you'll see, the most popular and common one is going to be the Pell Grant. There's also the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grants, and there's also the Teacher Education Assistance for College and Higher Education Grant. So even though this is money that you shouldn't have to be repaid, there are some certain circumstances where you might have to pay it back. This is really important to keep in mind, guys. If you're getting towards midterms and you think you might have to withdraw or you're not doing well in a class, keep in mind that if you do end up withdrawing or your enrollment status changes, you may end up having to pay some of this money back. So like it says there at the bottom, if you withdrew early, if you do have any enrollment status changes, which basically means that, oh, I started out as a full-time student, but then I dropped this class and this class, and now I'm only half-time. That will change your eligibility for grants, which means if you got extra grant money for being a full-time student and now you're half-time, you'll probably have to pay that back. Federal work study, this is a fun one. So if you're interested in working on campus, you can actually get eligibility for being a work study student through the FAFSA. So essentially, as an eligible student, you'll apply for jobs on campus to earn money to pay for school expenses. A question I get a lot, because I run our student ambassadors here at Shepherd, so I have student employees who work under me, is what is the difference between being a regular student employee and a federal work study student employee? The major difference is not so much on you as a student, but it's on where the money comes from. So if you're a federal work study student, that means the money from your paycheck is actually being allotted to, say, Shepherd from the federal government. But if you were just a regular student employee, that would mean that your paycheck is coming directly from Shepherd. We're not getting that money from somewhere else. As a work study student, you can qualify for part-time employment. You're usually not going to find any full-time opportunities because the goal is always for you to put being a student as your number one priority, right? The job should come second at this point. It will pay at least the current federal minimum wage, but depending on the job, you can earn more. This is where I'm going to go ahead and plug my student ambassadors. It's one of our highest paying jobs on campus. We pay $11 an hour at Shepherd. So just keep that in mind, that even though the minimum is that minimum wage, you can still find jobs that will pay more money on the hour. And then your eligibility for federal work study is going to depend on a couple of different things. When you apply, again, the sooner the better, always, your financial need, and then of course, like I said earlier, your school's funding. And then other scholarship opportunities we want to go over. So Similar to grants, scholarship money is money that is awarded that doesn't have to be paid back. However, it's going to have some different eligibility criteria. So scholarships, depending on where the scholarship is from, who it's through, can have all different kinds of requirements like GPA, your test scores. It can also consider financial need, even your major or your culture and your family background. Some of the best ways to find scholarships, check in with, if you're interested in one school or multiple schools, it doesn't matter. Check in with their financial aid office. Even if you don't speak to someone directly, definitely check out their website and see what scholarships they have listed there. That's going to be one of the biggest sources for scholarships that are specific to your school that you're interested in. Also, don't count out your high school counselors at the counselor level. They usually have a list of scholarships on hand that they like to recommend for students. There's also a scholarship online search that you can do online through the U.S. Department of Labor. And there's other ways that you can find scholarships too. So for West Virginia specifically, like I know Sarah just talked about Glenville's Hidden Promise, but West Virginia also has West Virginia Promise, or even at the community college level, West Virginia Invest. So there's a lot of ways that you can get your school paid for. You just have to be willing to look for them and do the due diligence of applying and checking up on the status. And if you're a part of a religious or any other community organizations, be on the lookout for scholarship opportunities you might have there, local businesses, and even if you're working right now, check in with your employer or even your parent or legal guardian's employer. They will most likely have some scholarship opportunities for you to apply for. I had some friends who worked at Chick-fil-A in high school, and because they were Chick-fil-A employees, they could apply for a Chick-fil-A specific scholarship and ended up getting money to help pay for school. So there's lots of ways to find those resources and get it done and get that money, because that's important. And so at this point, what happens if we've applied for all the scholarships and all the grants and federal work study and there's still money left over that you don't have and you need it to pay for school? So this is where loans are going to come in. So if you do the FAFSA, this will qualify you for those federal loans. This is money borrowed from the U.S. Department of Education. However, different from grants and scholarships, you do have to pay this money back. So there are two major types of loans that you'll see as an undergraduate student. The first one are the direct subsidized loans. I know these are big words, but I promise you this will come in handy 4 years down the line when you're trying to pay off these loans. I know it is coming in handy for me now. So the direct subsidized loans are awarded based on your financial need. Your school will actually determine how much you can borrow for that loan. And while you're in school, and this is where the difference sort of comes in, while you're in school and those loans are accruing interest, which is that additional money you have to pay back, the Department of Education is actually paying on the interest. So that interest adding up as extra money to have to pay back won't really start to burden you until after you've left school. So after you leave school, there is a 6-month grace period before you have to start paying back on your loans. But after you've left and that interest starts accruing, you're responsible for all of that. Whereas when you were in school, someone else is paying for it, basically. As for the direct unsubsidized, this one is a little different. So there's no financial need requirement for the direct unsubsidized loans. So if you are one of those students, and I hear this a lot where maybe a student will come in with their parent or their legal guardians and they think, oh, we make too much money for our student to qualify for any federal aid. That's not necessarily true because these loans don't have the financial need requirement. So maybe you won't qualify for grants or scholarships, but it's nice to have that backup of qualifying for those loans. So for the direct unsubsidized, the school will still determine the amount that you are allowed to borrow. And here's where the difference comes in. All the interest that you accrue, even while you're in school, you're responsible for paying that with the direct unsubsidized, whereas with the other ones, the DOE was paying on that interest. So that's the major differences between those two. When you start borrowing loans and before you graduate college, you will go through what we call student loan exit counseling, and it will give you a breakdown of how to calculate your minimum payment, what your minimum payment will be, to make sure that you understand how the payment process works and the money and the amount that you owe. So just some things to keep in mind as good to know tips. If you choose not to pay the interest while you are in school, or during those grace periods, just keep in mind that that interest is going to build up. So if you're in a position where you're able to pay on that interest, even if it's just a little bit while you're in school or in that grace period, it helps a lot. For example, right now, with everything going on with the pandemic, US student loans, federal student loans have 0% interest. I'm still making payments on my student loans to try to get those down as much as possible, even though technically I don't have to right now. And then interest rates on federal student loans are fixed, and they're usually lower than private student loans. And this is, again, even if you don't think you're gonna qualify for anything, even with these loans, you can still get a lower rate. I highly recommend doing it, even if it's just your last minute final backup. It's still worth having in your pocket. And then you don't have to actually start repaying until you either leave college and pass that 6-month grace period, or you drop below half-time enrollment. And just keep in mind, guys, there is a limit to how much you can borrow. So a lot of times I work with students who started college, left for a few years, and then came back, and they're already very close to their borrowing limit. And now they have to worry about getting money from somewhere else, from a bank or another private loan provider. So if the more aware you are of this while you're in school, the better you do the first time in school, and hopefully you're only in college once. You get it done in one fell swoop, then you don't have to worry about it. But just keep that in mind if you think you're going to take a break and come back, that there is a limit to how much you can borrow. It's not an infinite amount. And then if you want to get in touch with me, my name is Lacey. I'm at Shepherd University. That phone number you see right now there is actually our text line. So if you have any questions, if anything you think of after the Q&A today, feel free to send those my way. And we have other counselors on that line as well. And then just some tips from me. I think don't pass up on free printing. So my first 2 years of college, I could have qualified to be in the TRIO support program, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which offers free printing for our students on campus. And I didn't actually apply or get in until my junior year. So for those first 2 years of school, I was paying to print all of my papers, and I so wish I would have taken advantage of that opportunity as soon as possible. You would be surprised at how much paper and ink will cost you throughout college. Another pro tip, if you're feeling nervous about your first day of classes, not sure where everything's going to be set up at, then I really recommend walking through your class schedule before the first day of classes. So that way, when classes start, you know where you're going, you feel comfortable walking around and navigating campus, and you can just worry about getting there on time and making sure you're prepared for the class itself and not having to worry about getting around. And then for commuters, if you're a commuter student, I was a commuter student for 2 years, then keep in mind to find your parking spot early. So usually if you have friends who are already out of school, or you know someone who goes there, you can sort of feel out what the parking situation is like. Usually at Shepherd, it's pretty tight. So I learned to either get there really early or right before my class started to see if I could swap spots with someone. So those are my major pro tips. And then again, to get in touch with me, there's my email, screenshot that phone number, text us if you have any questions, and I will go ahead and pass it over. So I think Chris from Virginia Tech was supposed to be presenting this portion today. I don't think she was able to make it, so I will go ahead and cover this portion of the presentation for her. So if you guys aren't familiar with TRIO programs, this is a federally sponsored college program that is in place to support low-income, first-generation students, students of military veterans, adult learners, and other underrepresented populations. So one of the ways you can find out if you qualify is if your school offers TRIO, check out their TRIO application. You'll see where you can check off either one of these options, and that's usually how you would qualify, as you'll apply to be selected to your TRIO program. Some schools, I know at Shepherd specifically, we only had a limited amount of spots in our TRIO program every year. So it's one of those things, again, even if you're not sure if you want to participate, the sooner you apply, the sooner you know if you got in, and the sooner you can make that choice. And then if your school doesn't offer TRIO programs, there are other programs that are in place for first generation students. So the McNair Scholars this is something that's usually school specific, but I know it is a scholarship program for first generation students. If you want more information about that, I definitely recommend doing some research. There are other student support services in place at every campus. So for example, at Shepherd, we have a Student Success Academy that's for our freshman students coming in to help them with the transition from high school to college. And they work with our students with study skills, note-taking skills, test prep. They're really your personal cheerleaders. Upward Bound is another one that will give you the chance to come to a college campus and study in a college environment while you're still in high school. So keep that in mind. And then the Veterans Upward Bound, similar scenario there. I would recommend doing more research on that independently. But no matter what school you go to, they're gonna have first resources in place for you, both for first generation students, but also most likely for all of their students. Some other resources that Shepherd has to offer are free tutoring for all of our students for every subject. So just be on the lookout for those things, because when you're paying tuition, these are the resources that you're paying for. Don't let them go underutilized. They're there for you to succeed. So the ways that TRIO can help you help with selecting the right classes. I was a TRIO student, and in TRIO we had our regular faculty advisor who was a part of our major, but then we also had our TRIO advisor. So whenever I was feeling iffy about my class schedule, I'm the type of student who I came in and I wanted a 4-year plan right away. I sat down with my TRIO advisor and we mapped everything out, and it made me feel so much better. If you're looking for additional scholarship resources, your TRIO advisor and TRIO staff should be able to help you in finding other financial aid opportunities or resources that maybe you didn't know about. And they're also just there to help you better understand the college experience. So say maybe you had a bad encounter with one of the professors, you can go to your TRIO advisor and talk to them about it, and they'll be able to walk you through steps that you can take to sort of work out any conflict resolution you might be having, as well as just finding your place on campus. If you're not sure of all the clubs that there are the resources you are, then that's where TRIO comes in handy, just for navigating, because there are so many things that are offered that are different at every single campus. And they'll also just work with you in general for learning strategies and how to access those academic support resources. When I was in TRIO, I was a peer mentor. So I worked with a first-year student, and we met about every week, every other week, and just talked about how our classes were going, if she had any questions, if she wasn't sure about certain spots on campus or where she might find peer tutoring and things like that. Those are the sorts of things that we talked about for TRIO. So overall, really, really great program and a really great opportunity for you guys to just feel comfortable, make friends, and feel like you have something that's connecting to you, to your campus. And then this is Chris's information from Virginia Tech. So if you have any questions, there's her contact information. Feel free to reach out to her. And then I'll go ahead and talk about her tips too, because I'm sure they're good. So if you aren't ready to reach out to someone at a college, reach out to your high school counselor to find out which universities and your school partners with that, so you can sign up for a TRIO. Register, if you haven't already, register for the College Board, SAT, and Prep, and you can receive 4 free college app waivers. So what this does is it will waive the college app fee, especially through Common Board or Common App, for certain schools for your first 4, or whichever 4 you want to use them for. And then reach out to your TRIO advisors for support in navigating home and personal obligations, anything that might create a barrier to college. And that's a really good tip, because I think one of the hardest things in life is to be a full-time student, because you're not just a student, you're still a family member, you still have your friends and your siblings, and you probably even have a job, and there's still so much going on, and you have to keep up school with all of it, and it's a big hustle. So don't be afraid to reach out for those people who are there to support you and be your cheerleader. And then high school course selection is critical for admissions considerations. This is especially true for some of the more competitive schools. They're really looking at the rigor of your coursework, not just your GPA, but how many AP classes, how many college prep classes, how many honors courses, did you dual enroll? They take all of those things into consideration. And it was actually, I did some research on this, but it was actually found that one of the highest indicators of success at the college level is the prep work that you do in high school and that rigorous high school curriculum. So if you're looking to succeed at the college level, be prepared to take on some of those harder classes. And then TRIO staff can help make sure you are on the right track with those classes. And that's all for me, guys. I'll hand it over to Kristen to finish her up.
Hi, everyone. Give me 1 second. All right. Like Lacey said, my name is Kristen, and I work at West Virginia Wesleyan College. I actually don't work in our admissions department, but my entire job here at Wesleyan is working with our first generation college students. So we have some really awesome programs that I'll touch base on and talk to you about here at Wesleyan. But I also will just kind of talk to you in general about finding your campus family. Because like Lacey was saying, sometimes the hardest part of college is juggling all those different roles that you play. And one of the best ways to do that is to make sure that you've got a good support system and a good group of people behind you who are rooting for you and want to see you succeed. So, at Wesleyan, we offer several different first-gen programs. So like Lacey said, we obviously look for different colleges to see what kind of TRIO programs are out there. Here at Wesleyan, we don't have a TRIO program, but instead we do lots of different other versions of those programs that are just not federally funded. We just do it through the college. So kind of an overview of what we offer. We have peer mentoring programs here at Wesleyan that will partner incoming first generation college students with current upperclassmen, almost all of whom are first generation college students themselves. So they've been in your shoes, they know what it's like, they've had probably some similar struggles in terms of navigating college and transitioning and all of that. So it's kind of a really good resource to just have that built-in group of friends as soon as you get to campus. We also offer a living learning community at Wesleyan for our first gen students, and that is where we have a group of students who live together in a residence hall and participate in programs and special like mentoring just for our first gen students. When you apply to Wesleyan and deposit and then submit your paperwork for housing, you're asked if you want to be a part of our first gen learning community. So you get to opt into it. You're not automatically put in there, but it's just a really cool option for you to live with other people who you might have a lot of things in common with to, again, help with that support system. You'll see as we go through this, support system is a really big theme for the services that we offer at Wesleyan and that I think most colleges tend to offer as well. We also do some advising and academic services specifically for our first gen students. So Danielle earlier in the presentation mentioned academic advisors. We obviously have academic advisors at Wesleyan, but then I also serve as kind of like an extra advisor for a lot of our first gen students. So we have a group of freshmen every year called our first gen Bobcats, or 1GB, and they are students who meet with me weekly just to kind of like touch base and make sure life is going okay, make sure classes are going okay, and that you're settling in on campus all right. And also they take a shared first year seminar course together. So it's another, yet again, a great way to connect with other first gen students, build that support system, and make sure you have some really solid resources here on campus because we want to see you succeed in and outside of the classroom. We also do a lot of cool kind of community building activities throughout the year for our first gen students. So we do things like game nights around exams or s'mores nights. We'll also do every November an entire week of programming to celebrate First Generation College Student Week. So we definitely are proud of our first gen students for the work they're doing and the commitment that they've put forth. And we definitely want them all to know that we support them and that we're proud of the work that they're doing. So also, TRIO programs you can find on campuses across the country and across the state. If the schools that you're looking at don't offer TRIO programs, be sure to just look and explore and see if they offer any other programs for first gen students like we do at Wesleyan, because just because a school doesn't have TRIO doesn't mean that they don't have awesome programs and resources for their first gen students. So say you get to campus and maybe you want to explore other options that aren't specifically related to first gen students. Be sure to look at cultural organizations and other student organizations that kind of have shared interests or shared backgrounds as you. So pretty much every campus will have different religious organizations that are run by students where you can connect with other students who have similar backgrounds and religious beliefs as you. Also cultural organizations that are geared around your background, like the Black Student Union, Latinx organizations, things like that. And then also PRISM and other LGBTQ and ally organizations. So no matter what your interests are, what your cultural identity is, what you like to do for fun or hobbies, chances are you're going to find an organization on your campus that is geared towards that. So you can meet other people who have the same or similar interests. Also, Greek life is a huge thing on a lot of college campuses. I know it's kind of iffy, the things that you hear on TV and in the movies about Greek life, but sororities and fraternities can be a really awesome way to build a sense of community on a campus. They're all geared towards certain organizations to kind of help give back to the community. So it's just a really cool way to find your people on campus if that's something that interests you. And then lots and lots of different things that you can do and get involved with. Also, be sure to look at campus involvement, the things that your school offers directly. So look for summer experiences. Before you come in as a freshman, a lot of times they'll offer week-long camping trips or different camps that you can come to campus for during the summer before your freshman year to kind of help get you connected to other students and get started in the college experience. Living learning communities, like I mentioned earlier, we have one for first gen students, but colleges do them geared around different majors, around service learning, all sorts of different things. Leadership development programs, service learning programs, and many, many more. So there's tons and tons of opportunities for you to find your people. Sometimes it's easy to kind of be nervous and be shy or be introverted and hold back, but just know that there are other people that are probably going to feel that same way too, and that want to make connections just like you do. So this is my contact information. You can see my office telephone number up at the top and then my email address. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. My tips from my own experiences as a first gen student, if you can't tell, this is my theme, find your people. No matter what your interests are or your needs are, there's going to be people for you to connect with on campus and people who can really make a difference in your life while you're a college student, but then also hopefully beyond. And then for me, one of the biggest things that I struggled with as a first gen student was just kind of doubting myself and imposter syndrome, which look into it if you haven't heard of it before. But just know that you are where you belong and you're where you're supposed to be, and don't doubt yourself. You deserve to be in college just as much as anybody else. So don't let that voice in the back of your head get to you. All right, I think we have just a couple more minutes before we wrap up. So I don't know if there are any questions or anything else before we officially wrap up. And I can't see the Q&A box from where I'm screen sharing the presentation, but you guys can feel free to chime in if there are any questions that need to be answered for my other presenters, if there's anything that needs to be answered out loud, or Amanda for you to take back over before we finish?
Absolutely, Kristen. It doesn't look like there are any questions coming in yet. I think we have about a minute left, if I'm correct. So can definitely type those in. No? Okay. Doesn't look like we have any questions.
All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. I just want to say, wow, that was super informative. So thank you, presenters. Thank you to those of you for joining. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, this was just one of the many sessions that is being hosted by the WVACRAO.org. So if you would like, you can check out more on our website. Those sessions will be uploaded. All right, so I think if nobody has any questions and everybody's done, I'll let everybody go. It was nice seeing everyone.